We today have become so privileged to have a combination of speakers that the department could ever ask for. Starting from our distinguished forwards to this very event, Professor Tilak Kewasam becomes very significant in the fact that he was one of the founding members of our department and the faculty, and served the faculty for close to 20 years, contributing his service both as an academic and an administrator. Currently, he is heading the most prominent government authority for the environment in Sri Lanka, the Central Environmental Authority. In addition to being a renowned geologist, we are certain that he will give his leadership to the country's most prominent environmental authority in a very productive way. Dear sir, we are privileged to have your presence in this occasion. Professor Sandur Pereira and Professor Jacinta Vijayasekara are very well known to all of us, but I feel honored to very shortly introduce this wonderful combination of speakers as they share this one common root of being proud alumni of our department, the Department of Natural Resources. Professor Sandurche Pereira is a professor in conservation biology and biogeography and currently is the program coordinator for the IUCN Sri Lanka, a top-level global organization in biodiversity and environmental conservation. Professor Jacinta Vijayasekara is a very dynamic researcher in the field of bioremediation and plastic pollution, also holds many recognitions for his publications in top-level journals, and again deserves our congratulations on your very well-deserved professorship as a professor in environmental sciences. Last but not least, this event was conceived by Dr. Lalin Ranavira, head of the Department of Natural Resources, and we took it forward from there with the support of the SNRS, the Society for Natural Resource Studies. Therefore, sir, I would cordially invite you to deliver a short welcome note to this very enthusiastic gathering.
Good morning and good day for all. We know that protecting our environment is a shared responsibility we all have. And in this day, we organize this event to mark and memorize or recall again and again our this shared responsibility. So first of all, I would like to welcome the Dean, Faculty of Applied Sciences, Professor Sabaragamuwa. Thank you for gracing this occasion, and also heads of departments present here, and professors and academic members, non-academic members, and all the students. I warmly welcome for this occasion. And I also take this opportunity to thank our two speakers, Professor Sandu J. Pereira and Professor Jacinta Vijayasekara, both are two notable alumni of the Department of Environmental Sciences and Department of Natural Resources, and also our two key staff members. And also, I would like to thank Dr. Deepchandi Lekange for behind this organizing this event as the senior treasurer of the this SNRS. And also let me thank the Society of Society for Natural Resources, all the members there, to collaborate with the department to organize this event. So let's have a fruitful discussion, seminar here. Thank you very much.
Dear Vice Chancellor, Deans of the Faculties, Academic Administrative, Non-Academic Staff Members, and students of the Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka, dear all participants gathered here to commemorate World Environment Day 2025. It's a great pleasure for me to join the World Environment Day commemoration hosted by the Department of Natural Resources, Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka. It is commendable that the department and its Students Association, the Society of Natural Resources Studies, recognize the importance of raising awareness and promoting actions to protect our environment and natural resources. As you know, World Environment Day is celebrated today under the timely theme of ending plastic pollution. The overuse and mismanagement of polythene and plastic have become severe environmental issues worldwide, especially in our country. Only about 12% of plastic and polythene are returned to recycling center. The rest is burned, openly dumped, or buried in the soil, with a large amount ultimately ending up in the sea. Plastic pollution is a significant environmental problem that impacts the world's ocean. Therefore, we must immediately focus on ending this global environmental issue. I would like to briefly recall my academic career, especially for the present students. After working for a short time at the National Institute of Fundamental Studies, I had the opportunity to join Sabaragamuwa University of Sri Lanka in 1997 as a young lecturer in the Department of Natural Resources. As a founding academic member of the department, I contributed to establishing the BSc degree program in Environmental Science and Natural Resource Management, which was the first degree offered by a national university in Sri Lanka at the undergraduate level. After serving for over 17 years and holding the position of head of the department for 2 terms, I joined the University of Peradeniya in 2013. Currently, I am the chairman of the Central Environmental Authority of Sri Lanka, established in 1981 as the leading entity to protect and manage the environment of the country. The experience I gained from the Sabaragamuwa University while holding academic and administrative positions is greatly beneficial for my role as chairman of the Central Environmental Authority. I'm very happy to see the progress of the Department of Natural Resources and the achievements of its graduates. The graduates from the department are currently working as academics, researchers, and environmental professionals in both the state and private sectors, both locally and internationally. I would like to offer my sincere thanks to the staff, alumni, and students of the Department of Natural Resources for their contribution to uplifting the department as well as the degree program. At the national level, your degree program plays a pioneering role in nature conservation and the management of countries' natural resources, including its biodiversity, forest, water, soil, and minerals, the environment as a whole. The multidisciplinary nature of your degree program and the academic quality maintained throughout are undoubtedly key to the success. I'm particularly happy to see 2 of its alumni, Dr. Hasitha Wijesekara and Professor Sandum Pereira, not only succeeding as young academics, but also contributing significantly to research, knowledge dissemination, and practical applications in environmental management. They are leading global initiatives for environmental conservation in top rated research laboratories and highly acclaimed global conservation organizations like the IUCN. Hence, I would leave the knowledge sessions of today's program on their shoulders. I would like to take this opportunity to encourage you to commit as future leaders of this environmental movement. Be passionate about what you do and contribute to the fullest of your capacity to collectively achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, which is, of course, the mission of your department, the Department of Natural Resources. I have no doubts about you becoming competent graduates who will take the seats we occupy today, ensuring that these untiring efforts to protect our environment continue in the future. I wish all of you a very productive and bright future. Thank you very much.
Okay, good morning all. Dear Dean sir, head of the department, and my colleagues, dear colleagues, Jara sir, and dear students. I'm having this topic today, ending a global crisis solution to plastic pollution. I have a couple of questions today. So the very first question is, can we live in a world without plastics? Okay, so just think a day. We wake up in the morning, And what is the very first thing we do? Yeah, find in the mobile phone, right? I think in the global population, I think 80% of the population do the same thing. Okay, we are finding the mobile phone, and then searching Facebook, and we are doing a lot of activities phones. Okay, and then hopefully everyone brush teeth in the morning. Okay, sometimes some escape, but these are regular activities. And then we find water bottle, and then yeah, make a cup of tea, coffee. Okay. So my key point here is we are living with a lot of plastic. Okay. So plastic in a way shape our lifestyle. Okay. They shape the way we live. Okay. They give a lot of advantages. Without plastic, we can't even imagine. Okay. So after all, we close the day, again we go to the bed with the mobile phone again and look for information, and again search friends and their updates, okay, their status. Okay, so anyway, my point is here, we are actually literally living with plastics. Okay, so this is the way I actually see bedtime reading. Okay, books. Okay, so I understand a couple of students here, many students do the same thing after my encouragement. Okay, so here, let's look at the per capita plastic consumption. So US, they are consuming a lot of plastic. So around 70 kilograms per year. That is their consumption. And Sri Lanka, around 6 kilograms per year. That is the per capita consumption. Globally, you can imagine how much plastic we are using, consuming. So um, this consumption have a big environmental impact to the at the global scale. I mean, consumption leads to a lot of plastic pollution. So, what kind of pollution we are having with the plastic? So, you take rivers, oceans, ecosystems, wildlife, marine environment. You see a lot of pollution everywhere. You will see plastic. Okay, so you can see a couple of pictures. These are not kind of alien things. Everywhere we can see, globally, we see all these issues. You can see the Express World disaster related photos. Thousands or billions of microplastic released to Sri Lankan shorelines and contaminated soil, sand, and sediments in that environment. And you see what happened to marine biota, their animals and wildlife. I think these are kind of regular images we can see related to this pollution. So how microplastic or plastic contamination occurs when we consider the human beings. Okay, so plastic contamination routes. Um, so the problem is actually whenever we have the big or mesoplastics or the big plastic, they will undergo a kind of digestion, or they will become small pieces, and finally they will become micro or nanoplastic, and then they can enter into the human body. And there can be a lot of sources, as I mentioned, the plastic bottles and debris, and all these contribute as a source. And then pathways, we can understand the rivers. When we drink the contaminated water with plastic, then they come to our bodies and contaminate our body. And also, you just think about this room and this air, the atmosphere contain again plastic. Okay, so every day, every moment, we are contaminating with plastic. Okay, so that's the so global average weekly plastic consumption. Couple of years ago, some researchers at Newcastle University, they said daily we are consuming around a credit card weighted plastic amount daily. In some countries, this would be further extended. Okay, just imagine. So if someone can scan our body for plastic, there can be a lot of thousands of plastic in our body. In liver, even a couple of weeks ago, scientists found microplastic, nanoplastic in human brain and breast milk. And that is becoming kind of normal these days because of the scanning and the advancement of health sciences. They have identified, or the doctors or the scientists have identified microplastic, nanoplastic everywhere in the human body. And actually, when we consume salt, shellfish, or wine, or beer, or all these can contain microplastics and nanoplastics. These are the sources of microplastic in the body. Okay, if you look at the abundance of microplastic in the human body, you see this is a nice study recently I found. You can see here different organs, as I mentioned, human breast milk, placenta, blood, colon, spleen, liver. All these organs can contain different size of microplastics. Okay, so you can see the ranges of microplastics or the items per gram of these substances, and these are the relevant references. So most of the human body parts, they can contain the plastic. So think what can be expected after this ingestion of plastic. There can be different kind of diseases and illnesses. And think when you have microplastic in your brain, what will happen? So sometimes we are not behaving really well. Perhaps that could be result of microplastic. Then you can say to your friend, do you have microplastic in your brain? So could be that kind of reason. Okay, anyway, my point here is microplastics is everywhere in our body. Think about animals, sea turtles and all. Okay, so they die and wash to shorelines because of this contamination. Okay, so what are the solutions? Okay, if you read the message given by General Secretary UN, Mr. Antonio Guterres, so this message is very important. Please have a time to read this short message. He says a couple of things. I extracted a couple of his messages. There is a movement for urgent change. He says there's a movement for urgent change. So that means this change is happening at the moment, okay? Because we are doing this, knowledge dissemination because of this issue, okay? So there are some movements, plastic related, global movements, and the education is happening, okay? And we are seeing mounted public engagement. You see, a lot of cleanups and public events related to this pollution prevention are happening at the moment. And he says steps towards reusability and greater accountability. So not like the past, we have a greater strategies, great strategies to increase the reusability of plastic. Okay, so those are a couple of very important message from him. And also, there are some policies have been developed to reduce the plastic pollution at global scale and local stage. We'll look at a couple of steps. We have to understand, it's very important, everyone should aware the global what's that? Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you, sir. Sustainable Development Goals. So under 12th goal, we have responsible consumption and production. Okay, so under responsible consumption and production, we have to change our normal routine. We have to think about environment. In this case, we have to think on how we use plastic, how we consume plastic. So actually, the single-use plastic consumption is the biggest issue. I think more than 50% is single-use plastic causing problem, because once we use single-use plastic, we just discard, and then they are accumulating consistently in the environment. So here, this is the big challenge. And for that, we can simply change our consumption lifestyle. Okay, so we can use a glass bottle. You see, always I am carrying a glass bottle. Okay, so it's my way. I don't like to use these type of cups and spoons. I always like to use the metallic things and this type of bottles and bioplastic. Okay, bioplastic is a good alternative for this plastic, overcome this plastic issue. And there are some other techniques, recycling and upcycling of plastics. You see the plastic bottles we discard in this cage that will process in a plant in this way as bundles, and then they will go to factory. Here the eco-sprinters are doing these activities, and they make these type of products from the recycled plastic. And also, you have seen probably these images. These shoes have been made with plastic recovered from ocean environment. And these are the threads, and these are some clothes. They are some innovative products of plastics. And the last message, what we can do as university students or university community. Okay, so what I can say, we are actually doing a lot of things related to, avoid plastic contamination and pollution, cleanups, and knowledge dissemination, and public awareness sessions. You are conducting a lot of things. At the same time, you do some innovative research. Okay, some of our students, they quantify plastic pollution, they quantify microplastic in lichens, microplastic in leopards, and a lot of innovative ideas. At the same time, they are doing some engineering work, like they are synthesizing bioplastics. A couple of students are doing such research at the moment here. And with all of these efforts, I think we can make a beautiful planet. So that's my key message here. Thank you.
So today is the 5th of June, the World Environment Day, WED. And we passed another important day last month. Anyone? The International Day for Biodiversity. Right? That was 22nd May. And we are also bringing up another important day in the future. I think, I can't exactly remember the day. I think it's the 8th, right? The Ocean Day, right? And the Ocean Day is very important when it comes to Professor Hasinta's talk, right? Ocean is the receiver of all the nano and microplastics that are getting accumulated over the next hundreds to thousands of years until we stop using the single-use plastics. And we don't know whether we will survive for next 1,000 years. For sure, I mean, it's a big question, right? Maybe even for the next 100 years. So we need to act fast. And while doing that, I'm going to touch upon the importance of having such days. Why do we have these days? I mean, we love the environment, we love the right? It's not the idea. The idea is that these days are reminding you over and over every year that these problems are getting triggered. And so that these are alarms, these are reminders for us to act together. And I also want to combine these 2 days in my talk. Number one, because biodiversity is my pet area, and that's the area that I'm working on. It's conservation. And then, secondly, these are stemming to the same history that we have to know a little bit about. This history starts 50 years ago. Actually, this starts even earlier. This starts with the Industrial Revolution after the World War II. The Industrial Revolution was going mad during 1950s, 60s, and towards the end of the 60s, the environmental movement started. Understanding that the Industrial Revolution is not going to survive the way it goes. The business as usual scenario is not going to help. And that understanding got the world to get together in Sweden, in Stockholm in 1972 for the first United Nations Conference on Human Environment. And that was from 5th to 6th of June 1772. And that's what the day that we are commemorating today, 5th June, as the World Environment Day, because this was the first global gathering to do that. But at the same time, this was still conference on human environment, right? Still we were looking more towards human. And it took another 20 years to understand that environment has to be bigger than the human development. And that's when the Rio Earth Summit happened, the first Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, one of the best attended global summits in the world. I don't know whether there was another summit that was well attended like this. This was attended by global leaders and environment ministers and under the green city of Rio de Janeiro in 1992. And this particular 1992 summit, Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, brought us three major global conventions. Those are the Convention on Biological Diversity that was adopted on the 22nd of May in 1992, and that is why we are celebrating 22nd May as the global or the World Biodiversity Day, or otherwise International Day for Biological Diversity. And this particular convention has defined the biological diversity and identified protected areas as fundamental cornerstones of biodiversity conservation. And that's where I'm going to take today's talk from. Starting from 1992, I'm going to come to 2022 and tell you where we are heading in celebrating the biodiversity that we have in the world, right? And these are called Rio Conventions, and these Rio Conventions are further supported by, can I get second one to play the slides? Okay. Before, John, that's okay? The previous slides that I, wonderful. Right. Thanks. So we have a smart screen, right? I'm not smart guy, right? Also I want to make the link between this environment and biodiversity. Actually, I mean, I'm taking non-scientist, but considerably important figure in the world, the King Charles III. He has recently mentioned in his philanthropic organization that is supporting global environmental conservation. He talks that at last we are now beginning to realize that the crises like climate change, environmental crisis, and the biodiversity loss are not two different crises. It's it's different phases of the same point. So we are dealing with the same crisis in the climate day, in the biodiversity day, as well as in the environment day. So that's what I wanted to say. All these days are reminding us the same thing. And with that knowledge, we went on for the next 20 years without doing much. Actually, we have been talking a lot, chatting so many conferences, right? And among them, two major ones were the Rio Plus 10 in 2002 and Rio Plus 20 in 2012. And do you also see something that comes with the number 2? Right? Stockholm was 1972. Rio Earth Summit, 1992. And then Rio Plus 10, of course, has to be a 2. And Rio Plus 20 has to be a 2. This is back in Rio de Janeiro. This was Johannesburg in South Africa. All these discussions got us somewhere, but not really finding the real solutions. People say these are waste of money and time and the carbon that have been emitted to bring all those people to those cities. That's a different story, but they have made some significant impact to what we are doing today. What happened today, I mean 3 years ago, in 2022 again, right? In 2022, we had the COP15 of the Convention on Biological Diversity. COP is the Conference of Parties. So from 1992, signing or the adoption of the Convention of Biological Diversity, we have met 15 times. The COP15 was scheduled to happen in Kunming in China, but it has to be postponed and later cancelled and moved to Montreal in Canada. But these COPs are not happening on a single day on a single platform or a stage. There are months of preparation for this. There are various proposals coming in. There are various adoption of concepts coming in, and all those happen even for Kunming. But Kunming COP could not happen because of the COVID pandemic. So it was brought to Montreal. So therefore, the discussion started from Kunming and ended in Montreal is known as the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And that's what this 50 years of discussion has brought us into. And that is called KMGBF. The KMGBF have set 4 goals for us to meet by 2050 and 23 targets for 2030. And that needs all the countries to have national biodiversity strategic action plans and provide country reports, which are called NRs. NRs standing not for natural resources, but for national reports. And also, CBD will publish the biodiversity outlook by combining these NRs on a regular basis. So that was the plan. And this was adopted in 2022, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And that framework brings us to the cornerstone of biodiversity conservation that was identified in the Convention on Biological Diversity, protected areas. Protected areas are going to be the key, and what we had so far were areas that were fenced, identified, and with boundary posted areas under the Department of Wildlife Conservation and Forest Conservation, right? We have areas that are set aside for the animals and birds. And that's what we were going with throughout the world. And this was a recent paper in 2020 analyzing how we are doing with the protected areas. And that paper has also analyzed how Sri Lanka has been doing. Here, among the countries in Asia, number 1 is Bhutan. We know why. They have a policy, national policy to have 70% of their country under green cover. Second is Sri Lanka. They are good, huh? They are not bad. This is a global analysis, right? When it comes to the area-based conservation in 21st century. So we have the Department of Wildlife Conservation under the Fauna and Flora Protection Ordinance. We are protecting number of areas called strict nature reserves, national park, nature reserves, jungle corridors, blah, 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 and sanctuaries as well as newly formed managed elephant areas. And then comes to the Forest Department. We have 2 categories, conservation forests and reserved forests. And we have still a set of forests that we don't know what to do with, which are called village forests, which were also called OSFs, so other state forests. If you can remember the circular number 6 of 2020, giving all the other state forests to the land ministry, which was opposed by a lot of people in Sri Lanka, including the academia. Right, I took the lead in sending a petition to the president with 35 signatures from Sabaragamuwa University opposing that, and we were successful in not implementing that. Still, the other state forests or the village forests are under the forest department. And quickly we need to identify them, clearly boundary demarcate them, and get them into proper conservation status because they are not protected properly as yet, right? And then the CEA, Professor Hewasam's authority, is also having another kind of protected areas called environmental protection areas or EPAs, right? So we have these areas and the dots are, black dots are EPAs. So we have quite a good area of Sri Lanka covered under these protected areas. On top of that, we have number of multilateral, internationally recognized convention-based protected areas, World Heritage Sites, Ramsar sites, and biosphere reserves. So things are making a bit too complicated, right? But let us not go into these categories. But let's talk about the percentage of the area. What exactly is the area under protection in Sri Lanka? One publication by the DWC, Department of Wildlife Conservation, in 2023 says we have 26% protected. The ministry publishes the NBSAP, National Biodiversity Conservation Strategy and Action Plan, in which it says 35% of Sri Lanka is protected. And in another report in the same ministry says 29 to 30% with question marks, including the environmental protected areas under the CEA. What do we see here? Yes, we have a considerable portion of the country protected, but we don't know. We don't have clarity on this. We can't give a percentage for the country because number of protected areas are overlapping between the wildlife and the forest department. That is why this 35% has come. There are double counting of areas. And there are so many areas that are only in the paper, in the gazettes, but not on the land. There are multiple issues when it comes to the protected areas in Sri Lanka. How good we are? We are good in the terrestrial environment, at least 29 to 30% are protected. What about the freshwater? We don't even know what is the freshwater protected area percentage in the country from the freshwater resources that we have in the country. But that's why we need a lot more of GIS work. And now we are working with the SRE to do a complete country-wise assessment of protected areas under the Kumin-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework's Target 3. That is where I am coming, right? Freshwater, you don't know what it is. Marine environment, 0.03%, sorry, 0.3% of the entire exclusive economic zone. So we are not really doing great. Still, I'm asking how good we are. This is just to explain where the endemic genera of Sri Lanka are distributed. Endemic genera. And this is our protected areas. You can clearly see we have not done a good job. And we have all the endemic genera here, we are protecting here. And that is what we have been doing, right? And this is about the distribution of critically endangered fish species and the protected area coverage. I mean, almost all the critically endangered fish are found outside the protected area. So we have made something wrong, right? And that is what that has been answered by the Kumin-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, where we are now identifying PCAs instead of PAs. We were talking about protected areas. Now we are going towards protected and conserved areas. In the UNEP and WCMC, World Conservation Monitoring Center, they are maintaining something called World Database on Protected Areas. And now, after the Kumin-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, they have now created a new database called World Database on OECMs. What are these OECMs? These OECMs are the Cs. Sorry, Cs in PCAs, protected and conserved areas. The OECMs are other effective conservation measures. It starts with a very non-traditional name, starting with other. I mean, what about that? We're not because these are not protected. These are not protected. These are areas outside the protected areas that holds a significant biodiversity. And the governance of that particular area, it can be a person, single person, it can be a company, it can be a private entity, it can be a community-based organization, it can be a collaborative management by number of people together or number of organizations together. The governance of that area is promising that they will sustain the populations of important and significant biodiversity that are found in that area for a long term. But these are still unprotected. That means any development activity, any production activity can still happen in these areas, but under the control of this particular governance mechanism. And such areas, I mean, this is something that, this is in Assam, in India, but this is something that have happened 30 years ago, 50 years ago in Sri Lanka. Right? There have been elephants crossing the tea estates to go from Vallavaya via Kalubana to Horton Plains and to Peak Wilderness. Now we don't see that. In 2012, there were 3 elephants who have come to Horton Plains, right? So this is still happening in India. And these sort of areas are now identified as OECMs in India. Those are tea estates, production landscapes in which the biodiversity is protected. And for that, the first statement was made in 2018 for protected areas and other effective area-based conservation measures under the Convention on Biological Diversity. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into the definitions. And they are managed for biodiversity outcomes. They are governed by diverse stakeholders, and they are complementary to the protected areas of the world. And they will contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. Coming back to Professor Jacinta, we need to know all the 14 SDGs clearly. 17, right? 14 and 15 of the SDGs are for biodiversity, right? And all these are characteristics and site selection. And that is what is set by the target 3 of the Kumin-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Target 3 suggests we have to conserve 30% of the world by 2030. 30% of land, 30% of fresh water, and 30% of the ocean. Target 2 is about restoring 30% of degraded ecosystems. Target 1 is about planning and managing all areas to reduce the loss of biodiversity. And there are, as I told you, 23 targets. And among them, the target 3 has been the biggest. And target 3 is also known in short as 30 by 30 target, because we need to protect 30% by 2030. And the world is going there. And we are pretty okay with terrestrial protected areas, as I told you. But we are bad with other areas. So it doesn't prevent us from going from 29 to 40% or 45%, which is possible. If we identify all those production landscapes in which we still hold the endemic genera, because in those areas we can't establish protected areas. Protected areas. So the biodiversity has to be conserved outside the protected. The biodiversity has to be celebrated outside the protected, right? And these are other Kumin-Montreal targets that can be achieved through other effective area-based conservation measures. And IUCN, the organization that I have been working for over the last 23 months, is taking the leadership in setting up the OECM strategy and the framework for Sri Lanka. Now we have established a national steering committee. The national steering committee has met once, and we have also did a comprehensive capacity building program for the Wildlife Department, Forest Department, CEAN, many other related stakeholders who are, including the Fisheries Department, including the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau, including the what are the others? The Coast Conservation Department. All these departments are important when it comes, and the Land Ministry, and the Finance Ministry, and the Foreign Ministry, right? All those government leaders are being capacitated to understand this concept. 70% of them must still not understand. But we are trying, right? And there has been a lot of OECM guidelines being set up, and these are all downloadable. And we are now going towards a pretty much set three-tier meaningful system of area-based conservation of Sri Lanka. And the third tier, I'm going to just introduce you now, and I will explain that in a different time because we don't have time, right? So I just wanted to show you that there is another one in Sri Lanka, but of course we will have the PAs or the protected areas. Then second tier will be OECMs. These are production landscapes in which the biodiversity is protected through prior informed consent by the governance body. And thirdly, we will also have in Sri Lanka, this is another very interesting analysis that is coming into the policy level. We have an environmentally sensitive area policy for Sri Lanka. And I have been involved in analyzing the areas and identifying these environmentally sensitive areas for the country, which will be governed by the GNDs, clusters of Gramanilidari divisions. And that some of these can later be upgraded into OECMs and PAs, but that takes time. Until then, ESLs will be a locally managed area that is endemic to Sri Lanka, or that is unique to Sri Lanka, right? So this is where we are going with biodiversity conservation in the country, and this is important that the natural resources graduates understand this. In which sector you work in the future, this is very important because we are targeting 40% plus protection, actually protection and conservation, PCAs in Sri Lanka on land, right? And finally, I would like to go to two of, these are not great scientists, but these are the greatest explorers in the world. Robert Swan has been exploring the poles, North Pole as well as the South Pole, in massive way, and he's still advocating for polar conservation. And you know, Sir David Attenborough. So Robert has said, the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will come and protect it. It's not going to happen. We have to do that, right? If we don't do that, we are not going to survive. And that is what Sir David is saying. We often talk of saving the planet, but the truth is that we must do these things to save ourselves. Because the nature will survive with or without the human. The nature has survived for 4.6 billion years without the human. The human is already there for the last 150,000 years. So nature doesn't need us. If we want to survive, we need to protect the natural cycles that can only be done through protected and conserved areas. Thank you.